2024 Olympics.
Hi, I'm Andy Granatelli. I run Tune-Up Masters. Let me show you why a major tune-up is better than a minor tune-up. A minor tune-up is only plugs, points, timing, and adjust carburetor. But a major tune-up at Tune-Up Masters also includes the
I'm Jeff Holdfather, station manager for Cochise County's Channel 2 television. Putting together the type of programming that we're striving for here at Channel 2, with news about your neighbors from all over Cochise County, the latest results in local sporting competition, and the most effective advertising countywide, well, it takes a lot of effort, but most of all, it takes you. Call us at Channel 2 about news, sports, and if you'd like your business to grow with us, call about advertising to the largest market available throughout any media in Cochise County. And remember, we're your Cochise County Channel 2 television.
75 years ago, if you wanted to hold a reunion for all those Americans who have survived cancer, you could have held it in a hotel. 40 years ago, all the Americans who survived cancer would have needed a coliseum for their reunion. But today, if you wanted to hold a reunion for all those Americans who survived cancer, you'd need a city the size of Los Angeles. Please, support the American Cancer Society. The battle isn't over, but we are winning.
Good evening. I'm Judy Goyer. Welcome back to Sierra Vista Parade. Several months ago, I had the good fortune to have coffee one morning at Thunder Mountain Inn with Helen Vance and Frank Escobar, and they started talking about their early days in Sierra Vista. They're almost Sierra Vista natives. You realize Sierra Vista wasn't incorporated until 1956, so people who have been there almost that long are practically native Sierra Vistans. The Escobars have been here 23 years, and Reed and Helen Vance have been here for 26 years. They got to talking that morning, and I think we spent a couple of hours at TMI with them telling stories. All I did was listen, but I decided that someday I'd have to do something with it. Well, writing just isn't enough for these two, and so I decided to have them on the show and let them entertain you with their days of early Sierra Vista. If you have any questions for them, feel free to call, and they'll answer whatever they can. They've promised not to fight. They're very good friends, so they do squabble every now and then. Pancho said he won't campaign, and Helen won't give away any secrets about ongoing police investigations, so Reed, you can relax. Good evening. Thanks for being here.
Good evening, Reed. Thank you very much. It's a compliment being here with you. Thank you.
Thank you. I'd like to start with, I've forgotten what you called it, but someone used to put out a mimeographed newsletter once a week or twice a week and tell all the gossip.
Well, we used to call it the rag sheet, but that, of course, was not the correct name for it. I don't remember the correct name for it, but it was, and fellow Sierra Vistans that will remember, it was put out by Red Riley, man that worked for the news, for the radio station. And then he and Rex Thornton decided to write this kind of a little gossip type of thing. And everybody that wanted to make sure that you weren't in that paper that morning, you know, you ran down and got the paper and then had coffee and donuts at Tom's, which is at the end of Fab Avenue there. We had coffee and donuts down there and hashed over the news that came out. Of course, if you had, there was the Gateway Times and the Huachuca Herald, and you had to buy both newspapers to make sure that you got the whole lowdown of what was going on.
And did this mimeograph paper print just the real news, or did it talked about who was sleeping with who and other
pretty close, wasn't
things
it?
that were going on?
Pretty close. Pretty
There
close.
were several, there were several things that came out during that time period. Of course, Red Riley, and of course, Mr. Ken Ferguson from KHFH then were instrumental in getting us our first ambulance.
Yes.
And everybody worked very hard. As a matter of fact, Mr. Red Riley was the one that put on the marathon. marathon on the radio on KHFH, and we all went around knocking on doors until we got enough money, until we got enough sources, so we could buy the ambulance. And we bought the ambulance. I think we collected something like $8,000.
Right, right.
And the ambulance was a red ambulance, but we didn't have a driver.
That was the problem we never thought of.
Yeah.
The
And that's how
circumstances,
Sierra Vista got its first ambulance back
Yeah.
in 1962, about 62, 61, 62.
So who drove the ambulance then?
Well, then
Policemen?
they moonlighted as far as the police and fire. You know, they all moonlighted. But compared then to now, you're going back. You know what was legal, illegal type of situation. It was a survival thing, and then they parked. it. The hospital didn't. It took it over at one time, and then all the ramifications. You know, it's not just buying something. Then you're going into what are we going to do with it? Well, now we've got it type of thing.
Yeah, that's correct.
Yeah.
And then another name that comes to mind, of course, some of the old pioneers here, which is a well-known name, is the Bellantonis. Mr. Bellantoni, may he rest in peace, was also very community-minded. He used to come out, and whenever there was a fire, he used to come out and direct traffic on Fry Boulevard.
Yeah, with his hat on. Stop right out there on North and Fry.
Right.
And I am telling you, you know, they were scared to death that he would get run over, but you couldn't stop him and couldn't take that hat away from him. In those days, of course, Modern Pharmacy, Oscar and Lupe Idun had it, was right there where Bellantoni's furniture is now, right on the corner there.
Is that where the ambulance was kept?
Well, no, the ambulance, this was before the ambulance. This was way before when Mr. Bellantoni Sr. would go out there and direct this traffic. No, the ambulance then later was kept at the hospital. And then, I imagine, given to the hospital, wasn't it,
First,
Pancho?
the ambulance, if my memory serves me correctly, was where the fire station used to be at the old city hall.
At the old city
That's
hall.
where the fire station was over there?
Yes, yes.
The fire station was there. Everything was there.
Everything
What
was
grocery
there.
stores did you have? There was a Bayless then, right?
Well,
Well-
before Bayless was the El Rancho.
And
This
then,
is where Misty's and where Shoehorn, that area right in there. And that's where the First National Bank used to be, too.
and
Back
it,
then.
didn't it burn? The El Rancho?
Yeah, the El Rancho burned.
Burned
And then it was rebuilt,
as Bayless.
and then Bayless came in and bought
Yeah.
it. And we also had
Food Giant.
Food Giant.
Is that where Benny's business is now?
Yes,
That used to
yes,
be the Food Giant.
yes. And we had, of course, what time of the year then are we talking about when we had a department store, Fabs? That was before we had the Food Giant, ¿verdad?
Yeah, before, yeah.
¿Verdad? I go into Spanish, of course.
We need to take a break. We'll be back in just a moment after this message.
Make it your place for these April Best Buys. Shovels and rakes for that yard and garden work. Also, Rubbermaid roughneck trash cans and the liner bags for them, while supplies last. That's ace value and ace quality for all of your yard and home repair needs. Located in the Food Giant Center at 3756 East Fry Boulevard, Ace is the place with a helpful hardware man or woman. The International Fitness Center is for you, for your good health, for a good life. They have the latest equipment, a great certified staff, and they're waiting for you. Drop in for a free physical fitness evaluation at 4341 South Highway 92 or call 378-2461 for your good life.
We're making it look good. And even though it's popular dancing, we're making it look good. And even though
Welcome back. I'd like to ask Helen and Frank what you did in those days for entertainment. What you do on Saturday nights? You've talked about a couple of places where there were restaurants and you'd go dancing. Were there bands?
Oh, well, we had the Military Inn, where now stands the First National, and they had a very nice large hall, and it was a bar and a restaurant, remember?
Yeah, well, the Knights of Columbus also used to have dances there in the old hall. The Knights of Columbus bought that building. And for entertainment, it was I recall taking the kids out in the boondocks and chase jackrabbits.
Yes, yeah.
Which literally right there where Bayless is at now. We used to live on Barrage Drive when we first moved here. And the kids used to love it because it was just trails and we just chase jackrabbits.
Well, and also remember in those days we all had little children and we couldn't afford really to have a babysitter. So if it wasn't one of those things where all the family participated, picnics, the Post was always very good to let us use the facilities up there as far as going up to Garden Canyon and taking picnics. And I think there was a closeness with the family more, don't you?
Yeah, I recall too that in leading to what you're saying too, that there has always been a close-knit group, that is, as far as being together and participating in things, in such things as get-togethers at home. For example, we had, of course, the Vances, and then my sister and Ruben Ortega, and then we had Oscar Irun and Lupe.
Montoyas,
and,
Mary and
Montoyas,
Monty.
Mary and Monty Montoya. And we had, what was the other one I was trying to think of? Anyway, there were several families.
Well, the Sotomayors,
Sotomayor, I'm sorry,
Tito
and Monchi Sotomayor.
Monchi.
And so we were all more or less like a family. And whoever was going to have either a birthday or an anniversary or whatever, if somebody was going to have a cookout, well then
Everybody went.
Everybody went.
Yeah. And then remember when Monty used to clean out the garage on New Year's. Clean out the garage, and we would dance there in the garage.
Mm-hmm.
Yep, we had many a New Year's there, didn't we?
Yeah, as a matter of fact,
Many a New Year's dance.
when our third son was born, David, they were holding the New Year's party, and we got a false alarm, and our doctor was in Douglas, so then Olivia got into the car, and off to Douglas we went, and we stopped by to let them know that we were on our way to Douglas because David was about to be born.
Yeah, we were all dancing.
Yeah,
Never stopped dancing.
So, as far as entertainment, and I gather, coming from us anyway, or coming from me, from my side of the family, we weren't really looking for any zoos or carnivals or big city life. It was just beautiful living in a nice, serene area.
And people were concerned with the children. They all knew the children. Of course, they couldn't get away with anything. My kids still say that, Everybody knew us. Well, that's true, and they would watch out, if we see Frankie out, or, hey, does your mother know you're out? This type of thing. And I'm not saying it was bad. I really don't. I'm not saying it was bad. I thoroughly enjoyed it.
Back then, 7th Street was the end of town, right?
Gee,
You
that was,
mentioned
yeah.
The Bella Vista Motel was out there. Buena was out there, right?
Yeah,
Buena was out there because they had, at the time that Rita and I came to town, they were having the battle about the school, the high school, because Tombstone bid in for it, but I don't remember the whole battle. Hopefully somebody out there will remember, because we were already, we weren't here at the time, but Tombstone bid in for it and lost it. And that's when we acquired Buena High School here, because most of the Tombstone was in our school district. And then they ended up, or Huachuca City was in our school district, is what I'm trying to say. And so Huachuca City bid out, Sierra Vista bid out Huachuca City, and that's why the kids ended up going to Tombstone to high school. So we bid out Huachuca City for the Buena High. Now, what the situation was, I don't remember. That was before we came, about a year before we came.
So that was all settled.
So Buena was out there, and then the Bella Vista Hotel, but they had a real neat restaurant, Sue and Herb's.
Well, Sue and Herb's was on 7th and Fry, but the one along the north end on the north side of Fry was Mr. Vincent Cimitaro with the Italian restaurant.
Cimitaro, yeah, with the Italian restaurant.
And then right on
yes.
Lensner and Fry was Rebel serve yourself type. And then you kept on going and there was nothing until you got to the high school.
I mean, nothing.
There was another interesting note regarding the school. When we moved over to School Drive, we learned, Carmichael was our first elementary here in the area. And the first 5 houses there on School Drive were used as, Mr. Jim Carroll loaned those houses for classrooms.
Yes.
There's some people here in Sierra Vista right now that went to school in my house. So that's an interesting note too.
And you
then-
know they're having the 25 years of the first graduating class this year, from what I understand. So you see, it was just before we came that this thing of the Buena, that Huachuca City was back and forth. There were many
things.
many beautiful
we
things.
could sit
of
here and
Sierra
talk
Vista.
for hours. Like
Is
we
this
did that
Carmichael?
on TMI, on the TMI. You can go down Fry Boulevard and then you can picture in your mind the people that were there when we got here, like the Moses, for example, Ray Moses and B, and then Tony Shaib, and you keep on going down the street and you find Benny Cortez, and then you would find Oscar Irun, and then you would keep on going and you would find the Valles.
The
And then
Romays were
Casita,
here.
and then the Romays, and the Baumkushner's at the MI, the Appels were there, the Joneses there on Canyon Drive, and you just picture that in your mind, and it was just like Helen said before. It was a close family. Everybody knew everybody, and it was.
Took care of one another. Yeah.
And it was
Nice
very.
feeling.
It was, and I'm not saying that it's not nice now, but it's just good to remember that we can contribute something to telling people how nice it has been growing with the city, and that to me it seems like it's the same way. I feel that everybody's very friendly. I think that everybody's hospitable, and
I think that's our problem. That's why we're getting so many new people in.
It's too nice a place
Yes,
to live, isn't
well,
it?
the weather and everything, it's neat, you know. They go away and then they come back. We had U.S. Prior, you know, clothing stores and that. We had the clothes closet there at El Coronado, and a lady by the name of Dottie Pierce owned it. She was also at one time on the city council, and then she sold it to Evelyn Pratt. And then I think it was Joanne Poor bought it and is now moved over there. And we had plenty. You know, people ask, where did you buy things? Well, we didn't suffer any for it.
Did you go to Tucson very often?
No.
Not that often. I recall what we used to do was maybe once a month or every 6 weeks or
Yeah,
so we'd go
maybe.
to Tucson and maybe take the kids to a restaurant or go do some shopping. And
To a McDonald's, right?
yeah,
Because-
yeah. to something different, but we didn't live from one day to the next just to get to Tucson.
No.
It was too nice here. There was another person that I was mentioning about going down Fry Boulevard. Another native here, of course, is Chuck Schrader.
Oh,
with the
yes.
Chevron Station. Chuck has been here for a long time, and of course, Mr. Paul Keating had the gasoline station there when they used to have those hand pumps.
Well, he was the mayor when Reed went on the
Yeah.
police department. He was the one that, and Reed's brother, Cal, was stationed here with the highway patrol. And at that time, he lived on post. And I don't know how well aware you are of the post, but he was way up at Bonnie Blink. And if they had an accident anywhere in near the area, he'd have to come off the post, you know, and go through all of that to be able to get to the accident. So then is when they requested them to move off the post after, it had been 61 maybe, when they moved off the post and bought home on James.
Well, there's still some families here in the city that lived on post that are still here.
Yes.
The Trujillo family, for example, John Trujillo and Anita Trujillo, they lived in Apache Flats. And then the other family is Bob and Erlinda Aguilar. They lived on post. And I can remember Dave Hartman and all those people. They lived on post because there was nothing here in Sierra Vista to
Yeah,
to
they
occupy.
had to. That's right.
So
Yeah, they had to.
You mentioned earlier that Mayor LaGuardia of New York was born on Fort Huachuca.
yes, there's a briefing about headquarters for Huachuca, and it's really interesting because you go back and you find that there are a lot of people that you know or that you've heard of that have been connected with Fort Huachuca one way or the
Yes.
other. For example, Ben Anderson, who lives here, of course, and Ben Anderson started his career in Fort Huachuca as a first lieutenant or as a second lieutenant.
Oh, yeah, you go back and there were a lot of
And
them.
then Mr. LaGuardia was born in the finance and accounting building that used to be a hospital.
Yeah,
it was
that's
built as a hospital.
Yeah.
And Mr. LaGuardia was here. And there's numerous famous people that are still living, or the family is well known throughout the world, that were connected with Fort Huachuca one way or the other.
I think we'd be remiss if we didn't mention the doctor situation. I think if it hadn't been for Dr. Mock, which, you know, was in Huachuca City for years and years and years, and we all took our children and went, and when he operated on our Bobby, we went to Nogales. We didn't go to Tucson. Nogales had the hospital down there, and that's where Dr. Mock used to practice and did surgery down there. So it was not, you know, we didn't lack for anything, I felt.
No, Dr. Mock practiced in Huachuca City for, I don't know, maybe
Oh, my
25 years or
Yeah.
more.
That day we were at TMI, you were talking about a doctor who had a clinic near where the
Dr.
Stan
Folberg.
is now?
Dr. Folberg had a clinic. Many a baby was born there. Many a Sierra Vista baby was born there. Yes,
Until
right
the
there.
hospital finally opened,
Until
like,
the
20 years
hospital.
ago now?
Uh-huh, uh-huh. Didn't they celebrate their 20th?
I think it was their
yes.
20th.
So, you see, it's amazing, you know, how you look back and reminisce. Our son Bobby was here this weekend, and he can't believe how it's grown. He says, you know, I don't know whether we're good or bad Chamber of Commerce, but it was nice then. It's a beautiful town now, and we're very happy to be here. I am, even if I do fight with Pancho.
Having grown up in Tucson, seeing it grow was amazing, but Tucson was already fairly big.
Yes, fairly large,
You know,
yes.
in my early
yes,
memories, but
yes.
Sierra Vista was so small.
Yes.
What was the population when you two moved?
Oh,
Guesstimate.
my. I have no idea.
Counting-
Pancho's better at
what,
it than
counting
I.
cats and dogs or just us?
Human.
Just hush.
My memory serves me correctly. I believe that when we were conducting that collection for the ambulance, we said that if we would collect $1 per head,
Per head.
we would get enough, and it was something like 8,000.
9,000.
That's counting the whole area.
The whole area. That wasn't
Yeah.
just incorporated.
No,
city
no,
limits.
No,
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 because
no,
it was
no.
Fry.
It was Fry.
It included
Yeah.
Fry and included us here in Sierra Vista. So there was, I think if we go back and look at the records, we'll probably find that in that time frame it was probably around 8,000 people. Which isn't
Compared
very
to,
much.
you know,
Yeah.
what we're doing now. But still in all, all these changes are good. I mean, look at the hospital. It's just a pleasure. Your schools are growing. Of course, and kids are beginning, as I say, 25 years. They're coming back for that 25th. And doesn't seem like it's been that long at one time, and then again, maybe it has.
I think the one thing, one interesting part about our lifetime here too is the way the children appreciate it. Like my children, they all want to stay here, and they're living here and they're working here, and they don't want to move anywhere else.
We need to take a break. We'll be back in just a moment.
At Atlas Furniture, the key to our success is price, service, and selection. With the largest selection of sofa and love seat combinations that feature durability and comfort for your home. And the largest selection of Lazy Boy and Brookline recliners in southern Arizona. Unlock a world of furniture based on a family tradition. And my promise to you is that Atlas Furniture will always offer selection, price, and service.
That's Atlas Furniture, 66 North Garden Avenue, around the corner from the main gate.
Need a friend? Don't get all choked up. Take a short safari right here in the desert. That's Desert Safari at 10 Fab Avenue in Sierra Vista. For pets, supplies, and much, much more. Whether tropical or exotic, Desert Safari will have that pet you're looking for. And they're open all week long. So pick up a new friend for you or your child. Desert Safari, the pet store in Cochise County.
Hi, welcome back. Earlier, Helen and Frank, you were talking about when mail delivery started in Sierra Vista. Until then, I guess you had to go to the post office and
Yeah.
pick up your mail. But when 62, you got mail at home?
Well, we want to say that it was then. Wasn't it 62?
It was around then. There was two mailmen. George Nine was one of them, passed away.
Yeah.
He had batch number 2, and then batch number 1 is
Jake 9.
And
Yeah.
so it was real nice to have your mail brought home, and you didn't have to go to the post office for general delivery.
Yeah,
So
but
that
you
was
missed a
always
lot, not having to go down to the post
Well, yeah.
office and talk to everybody.
That's
That was, of course, me.
What did you do then?
We stayed home and read our mail. That was sad.
And like I said, we used to go and get a general delivery, and then all of a sudden we started getting it at home.
Yeah.
And we had mailmen.
Yeah, that's when it started to grow.
And that post office was where? Down by where the Lions Club is now? Is that?
That was when we got here. The post office right there was called the Fry Shopping Center.
Yeah. And
Right where the Lions hold their bingo. There used to be the post office, and then right next to it was a little bar. And then from there it moved over to where the clothing store, where in the
By Deutsche Zek?
that by Deutsche Zek, and in that area. And there's a jewelry store there now. Can't remember the name of the store that was there before, but anyway, the post office was built there. And then from there, it moved over to where Bellantoni's and DeConcini's built the building where the electronic store is at now, and where Mr. Morrison used to have his office. Okay, and then from there, it was moved over to where it's at now. So we've had 4 post offices in Sierra Vista.
It must be interesting, too, to see a given building and think of all the businesses that have been there.
yes.
Like where the shoehorn is, wasn't First Interstate there
Yes,
at one
it
time?
was. Sure it was. Yes, First Interstate Bank was there. Yeah, and we had, who else was in there? Mr. Ralph Wenzel.
Wentz.
That had a
restaurant.
restaurant. And then it was had our jewelry store was in there too. See,
And Fidelity Savings was there too.
now we are beginning, to lose
Then the
the...
Escobars had a restaurant there too.
Yeah, Pancho and Olivia had a restaurant in there
that's
too.
right.
Yeah,
What was the
Mexican.
name of your restaurant?
La Mapola,
No, Mapol.
How long
And
was
it
it
was-
there?
for about 2 years.
Were you the cook?
Of course.
Used to make tortillas to take out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, that was really an experience too, because we had Mexican food to go, and we used to sell the plates, like 3 tacos and refried beans for 99 cents.
Good night.
And,
Yeah.
and it was a good thing. It was a thriving little thing. Unfortunately, we had to get rid of it.
Yeah, that was something else. I remember that.
You mentioned earlier that where Juan's Barbershop is now was one of the first car dealerships?
Yes, Lou Breitman was sold cars, Chrysler, for Herman. It was Herman Motors. That's what it was called. Lou was one of the first persons we met, Reed and I, when we came to Sierra Vista. But it was Herman Motors, and it was a dealership out of Nogales. And as I say, we seem to go Nogales with the hospital and then this dealership. But then you said that Star Chevrolet was also, Star Chevrolet was
back,
also.
I remember Mr. Davidson. It was Star Chevrolet in Bisbee, because we bought a car in 1963 in Bisbee from Star Chevrolet. And then later on in 65, we bought a pickup truck for my father-in-law, and it was where the Golden Corral is at now.
Yeah.
But it was brand new. It was a new truck. I mean, it wasn't a used car lot or anything like that. It was a dealer.
We had a beautiful roller rink. Remember we had a roller rink here?
Oh, the one that burned down.
Oh, yes. We had some good dances. We used to hold some fantastic...
That was a policeman's ball. That was another thing. That was really interesting.
We had good times with those. Everybody wanted to get tickets, and we had to turn people away, because there wasn't room. We had good times. And we used to bring up mariachis. Again, those were the times that you looked for that kind of entertainment,
We didn't have to go through when we could bring mariachi bands from across the border and just have a real good time.
The money was always good because it went to sponsor softball or baseball or the children that needed you know, go to camp type of thing. It was always used it was left in the city, you know. It was not something used for one benefit. It was used for the youth. It was a nice dance we had.
You mentioned several months ago that you had talked with others about someday writing a book about early days in Sierra Vista.
Now, you see, we've been real good today. If we wrote that book, we'd have to move out of town, though, I'm afraid.
But you'd have to put all the spicy stuff in
Oh,
it, you know.
yes, but they told us, you know, we had to be careful here so that we don't...
Yeah, but I don't want to compete with Jack Klein.
No, he did a marvelous job on that book.
Oh, he did,
Marvelous
yes. But he
job
didn't
on
put
that.
the spicy stuff in like you
No.
two were talking about that day at TMI.
No, we don't want to get kicked
But you have
out
to
of
be
town.
careful of libel and
Yes,
you know, whatnot.
yes.
No,
Well,
we'd never do anything like
I remember
that.
you told me about some professionals in the community in those
Yes.
days who wouldn't want a lot of those things repeated. But it must have
Never.
made it interesting and
It
made
was.
the little paper worthwhile and your visits to the
Oh, yeah.
coffee shop and the post office.
yes. And it was fun, and you knew everybody's business.
Oh, that still happens here anyway.
Yeah. No,
I think the interesting thing in closing, really, I think one of the interesting, what would be very interesting would probably take a count and sort of as to who has 20 years or more here in the area, or, you know, and
Yeah.
find out. I was talking to an old friend of mine, Ollie Lanninger, one time about coming up with a club of some sort, and I think that would be a lot of fun.
the over 20.
The over 20.
Thank you for having us, Judy.
Thank you very much for coming. I really appreciate it. Please join me again in 2 weeks for Sierra Vista Parade. We'll have some more interesting personalities to visit with you. And next time, please feel free to call.